Hello lads, lassies, and those of unspecified gender, it's the Irishman here, and today we're going to be talking about what would have happened if Nappa survived. You can't tell me you've never thought about it. What if the hulking Saiyan, betrayed by the prince he was sworn to protect, somehow managed to survive? Would he turn good, or would he continue being a bootlicker for Vegeta? Well, that's the question I aim to answer today. Without further ado, let's get into the story of this what if. Goku has just utilized Kaioken to render Nappa near paralyzed. The Saiyan raised on Earth throws his hulking counterpart over to Vegeta, telling him to take his friend and leave before things get messy. Although the prince refuses, grabbing Nappa by the arm and throwing him up into the air, using a blast with his ki to seemingly kill Nappa. However, the hulking Saiyan was able to survive, whether it be because Vegeta just didn't have it in him to kill his longtime comrade, or because Nappa had some more energy left in the tank than one might have assumed. Either way, he manages to hold onto life long enough to see the fight unfold between Goku and Vegeta. Although, after seeing the Saiyan Prince prepare his legendary Gallic Gun, Nappa realizes maybe it's time to ditch this planet. After all, there's no point seeing if Vegeta wins this thing, because the Saiyan Prince doesn't care if Nappa lives or dies. Plus, there probably won't be a planet to stick around on if Vegeta's Gallic Gun is successful. So the brute calls over his space pod, before then crawling into it and setting course for a Frieza planet that he can get healed on. Although Nappa leaving does not go unnoticed, as Krillin sees the space pod leave Earth's atmosphere before then flying over to see if he can take the other one down before he gets away too. Although seeing that Vegeta is still fighting against Goku, Krillin decides to take out his space pod before he gets the chance to use it. This means that after Vegeta has his tail cut off and reverts from the Great Ape form down to his base and then proceeds to get the crap beaten out of him by Great Ape Gohan, who's an entirely different problem, the prince still has no way to get off the planet, since the space pod was already cut in half by Kienzan. And even though Krillin still doesn't kill him, he's not getting away anytime soon. Although, back with Nappa, after arriving on Frieza Planet 419, he would get healed up by the scientists there, and after leaving his rejuvenation pod, he would set course for whatever mission Frieza had for him. Nappa might not like the guy personally, but he has no reason to defect from the Frieza Force. The whole pride and ego thing was more Vegeta's shtick anyway, so Nappa would continue being a loyal soldier under the Emperor. Nappa is the gold standard of what a Saiyan is. He likes fighting strong guys, and Frieza pays him to do that. Probably in food, which is the only other thing Nappa cares about. So when he's told to get a prime and juicy ribeye if he goes and defends Frieza and Namek while he's trying to get the Dragon Balls, Nappa would be eager to do so. There were two reasons Frieza brought him along specifically. First off, being that Nappa is actually pretty strong. After being beaten 2 ways to Sunday on Earth and getting healed, he got a pretty big Zenkai, and I'd probably put him somewhere around the same strength as Vegeta before getting beaten up on Earth. Meaning that Nappa is one of the strongest in Frieza's entire army, and he does still want to keep him in check. The second reason is he wants to make sure that Vegeta's crew is as weak as possible currently. If he knows the prince, and sadly he does, then Vegeta will most likely be trying to get immortality as well, and thereby stopping Frieza from getting that wish for himself. So he'll want to make sure Vegeta has absolutely no chance of doing that. Not that he would if Nappa was by his side, but it just decreases Vegeta's odds is all. After arriving to Namek, the Frieza Force would be able to get a couple of the Dragon Balls easy peasy. Even though Zarbon and Midoriya were heavier hitters, Nappa had no problems getting his hands dirty. In fact, he enjoyed it. So while slaughtering the masses, he would be getting a couple of the Dragon Balls for Mr. Frieza all at the same time. In fact, after being betrayed by Vegeta, I can see Nappa taking a bodyguard-like role for Frieza instead, switching his priorities since, after all, Frieza was nice to him after Vegeta betrayed him, so it only makes sense to switch sides in this case. Although sadly, the two Saiyans don't get to have their long-awaited reunion, since when Vegeta first fights against Dodoria, Nappa would be in the healing tank, since he would have gotten beaten up by some of the stronger warrior Namekians, although this ends up working in his favor, as after getting healed and getting another pretty big Zenkai, Nappa is the one sent out to deal with the prince. Zarbon was originally going to do it, but it kills two birds with one stone if Nappa dies in combat with Vegeta as well. Although Nappa had grown attached to the Emperor, it was a one-way street. Honestly, Frieza would prefer if the two Saiyans killed each other in battle, since it would mean they're out of his hair forever. Well, more like horns, but you get what I mean. After the pair reconnect though, they would get into a scrap. Nappa absolutely pissed that Vegeta just left him for dead there. In fact, Vegeta tried to kill him. What's up with that? But the prince retorts that Nappa was useless. He was a piece of garbage to be thrown away because not only was he pitifully weak, but he was also damn near paralyzed, so there was no point keeping him around since he was no use in battle. Hearing this, Nappa gets enraged. He throws Vegeta down to the ground before using a giant storm. The prince is left bloody and beaten from this attack. However, Nappa refuses to finish him off, saying there's no point, he's useless in battle. Nappa would then return to Frieza, saying that he beat up Vegeta, left him lying there near dead. But the Emperor has a problem. If Vegeta had taken a couple of the Dragon Balls and hid them away, then who would know where they are? It'd have to be Vegeta. So Frieza, getting marginally ticked off, tells Nappa to bring the prince back here and then meet with him immediately. Nappa does so, tracking down where he had left Vegeta, and although the prince is a little while away, he was too beaten to actually get far. So the hulking Saiyan brings Vegeta back to Frieza's ship and puts him in a healing pod. That way he can communicate where the Dragon Balls are. But then Nappa goes to meet with Frieza, who informs him of a little secret amongst the Frieza Force, the fact that the planet of the Saiyans wasn't destroyed by asteroids. No, it was Frieza himself. He was tired of the Saiyans always getting in his ways. Their stupid legends admittedly made him a little nervous. What if they were true? What if the Super Saiyan did actually come about someday? That was something that Frieza just couldn't have. A warrior that could contest his rule? Frieza wouldn't have it. And although Nappa isn't excited to hear this, he does still wonder why Frieza's even telling him. Surely this isn't something he'd ever admit to, but Frieza explains that Nappa won't be able to tell anybody anyways. His lips will be sealed by the cold mistress of death. As suddenly, Frieza shoots a death beam straight through Nappa's chest. Then, with a loud thud, Nappa falls to the floor, lying lifeless on the ground as Frieza calls in some of his soldiers to drag him out. Although while the soldiers are dragging him to where they dispose of trash, they would be met by Vegeta, who is laughing at the circumstance that Nappa has found himself in. He's being thrown away like a piece of garbage yet again, and even after the speech about how he's worth something. But the prince isn't going to let him off that easy. He's going to settle the score before then Nappa's allowed to die, but only after the prince's permission is given. So he disposes of the soldiers before taking Nappa and throwing him in the healing pod that he was just in, having chosen not to blow it up this time. But Frieza doesn't have time to see this, as Vegeta has just made a grand explosion, stealing the Dragon Balls as well. Zarbon races close after, although after coming back in contact with the Saiyan Prince, he would meet an unfortunate end. Even after his monstrous transformation, Vegeta was still far too much after his Zenkai, being able to throw a fist straight through Zarbon's chest, impaling him and easily killing the monster. Bulma has mixed feelings about this, although she is definitely scared by the way Vegeta is acting. After all, he just murdered a man in front of her. At the same time, it's kinda hot. But either way, Vegeta does still leave, preparing to summon the dragon as he has almost all of the Dragon Balls. Or at least he thinks. As when he goes back to where he was keeping the other two he had in his possession, he would see they were stolen. This will not fly! Vegeta screams out to the high heavens while racing after the people he knows stole the ball. Although, after locating Gohan and Krillin, he senses 5 incredible powers surging towards the planet, recognizing them as the Ginyu Force. Now, understand this isn't exactly how events went in the original story, but I'm kind of rushing through the parts that don't include Nappa, as this is his story. But when the Ginyus do arrive, Nappa can sense it, and although he isn't quite fully healed yet, he definitely wants to fight against those strong guys, especially since he's seen them masquerading around as the most powerful in the universe under Frieza, and quite frankly gets on his nerves. So Nappa bursts out of the healing pod, before then rushing towards where the Ginyus landed. He forms an unlikely alliance with Vegeta once again, and although he didn't want to do it, he understands that the Ginyus are incredibly strong, stronger than even Nappa post Zenkai. So if they want any chance at winning this thing, they're going to need to work together. Nappa and Vegeta side by side are actually able to beat Recoome, and although Jace and Berta are an incredible duo, I'd wager that Nappa and Vegeta have been working together longer, and since Recoome was the muscle of the group, Jace and Berta shouldn't be that strong in comparison. So Nappa and Vegeta working collaboratively should be able to overpower the other duo. Although, before they get the chance to rush Ginyu, another ship would land on the planet, this time containing Kakarot, who everybody is happy to see, with the only exception being Vegeta. Nappa might not love the guy, but seeing as he's one of the only people in Nappa's life currently who hasn't tried to kill him, Goku's good in his book. Although when they all go to fight against Ginyu, Goku would have his body stolen, since he was the strongest of the group. In fact, he majorly surpassed even Ginyu himself. Although, since Ginyu can't utilize ki control, after stealing Goku's body, he's only able to use a fraction of the Saiyan's power, so he attempts to change into another person's body. But Goku recognizes this and is able to jump in front of the beam, regaining his own body. But Ginyu, now back in his own form, does still try and steal another person's body, this time Nappa. Although it doesn't pan out, as Goku's pretty good at throwing frogs. Although Goku doesn't actually need to go into a healing pod this time, since he wouldn't have given away the Senzu beans. Nobody really needed them this time. Gohan and Krillin would have stayed mostly out of the Ginyu fights since they just weren't strong enough, and Vegeta and Nappa had it pretty much handled, although they did sustain major battle damage from the fights before Goku arrived. So they still need a Senzu, but Gohan and Krillin are perfectly fine, meaning Goku is able to pop one and be brought back up to full right away. Not only do Nappa and Vegeta get a pretty big boost, Goku gets a major one, being brought up to a power level of 3 million. Although it doesn't really matter since they're not getting into a fight right here and now. Instead, they use the Dragon Balls that they've all gathered to summon Porunga. And with Dende's help as a translator, they're able to get their wishes across easy peasy. Wishing back Piccolo first, so that way Kami's back and they have the Dragon Balls on Earth. Although they don't wish Piccolo to Namek, because even though Goku understands the desire to see his homeworld, it just wouldn't be a great decision. Putting Piccolo's life at risk would make the entire trip pointless, so Piccolo's gonna have to stay on Earth even if it isn't what he wants. They would use their second wish to revive Chaozu, since he's the only Z-Fighter they couldn't use the Earth's Dragon Balls to revive. But before they get the chance to make a third wish, Porunga would disappear, as Elder Guru had sadly passed from stress caused by Frieza's arrival. Although, speaking of Frieza's arrival, he would make himself known after Porunga disappears, as he had noticed the sky going black on a planet with 2 suns. not something that happens every day. So he rushes over to the kinda hard to spot, easily missable giant frickin' dragon before then preparing to murder everyone who denied him of his wish. Although, after getting into combat with the group, he's actually being pushed by only one of them. Goku on his own is able to combat Frieza's first form, so he amps it to 2, but that's not enough either. With a power level of 1 million, Goku is 3 times that, and that's without even using Kaioken. So Frieza amps it once more to 3, which is able to push Goku, yeah, but with Kaioken he's able to drastically overpower Frieza. So he shows off his final and ultimate transformation, and this actually gives Goku a run for his money. Thinking fast on its feet, Vegeta demands that Krillin injures him. Use whatever he has to, but make sure that Vegeta is near dead. That way Dende can bring him back and give him a self-made Zenkai boost. That way he's able to at least stand a chance in this fight. Nappa does this same thing, realizing it's a pretty good idea and choosing to steal it, punching himself straight in the gut and gravely injuring himself. Then Dende comes over to heal the big lug, before then reluctantly doing the same for Vegeta. Yeah, sure, both Saiyans slaughtered a ton of innocent Namekians, but Nappa was just such a lovable big dude, whereas Vegeta was, kind of a douche. And although neither of them can really do anything against Frieza, jumping in to help Goku, they are pretty valuable support. Especially when powering up the Spirit Bomb, it's pretty helpful to have Nappa and Vegeta there holding off Frieza while Goku powers up the attack. Although before the bomb was fully charged, Frieza would do something unforgivable. He kills Vegeta. And although they had a bit of a bumpy road, Nappa still didn't want to see the person he was sworn to protect be killed so callously in front of him. So the hulking Saiyan lashes out. He roars with a primal rage as his hair begins to grow. Well, his beard begins to grow. He's still bald. Although as his beard doubles in length, gets a bit more spiky and turns gold, Nappa has achieved the legendary Super Saiyan transformation.
You are making me so mad!
And before Goku even has time to launch the Spirit Bomb, Nappa has already finished off the Emperor with a Super Saiyan Mouth Beam.
Vegeta, look! I'm a fire in my blood!
But now, with the Super Saiyan transformation under his belt, Frieza dead, Vegeta kind of his enemy and also dead, there's no real reason to stick around. So, with his goodbyes said to the Z-Fighters and even being offered a place on Earth if he ever feels like it, Nappa decides to take one of the Ginyu ships and leave. He mashes down on the controls, not really caring where he goes, just not wanting to stay here, and definitely not wanting to go back to Earth. Because even though it's kinda weird for him, he feels bad. He killed so many people there, and they're inviting him to go stay. It's something he's never really dealt with before, but he's feeling remorse. Ew! He's just gonna go on some vacation to any random alien planet he can find. It's probably gonna be more fun than whatever Vegeta's doing anyway. Oh yeah, he's in hell. So yeah, it's definitely more fun than whatever Vegeta's doing. And after a while of flying through endless space, Nappa would land on a planet known as Yardrat. And beginning to train under their leader Paibara, this will be Nappa's first step to redemption, or at least anger management.